of lower valuation and also to rationalize cash compensation. So we have another slide, still another slide to have an overview about the new grants, how in what effective way new grants can be thought of. Now coming to the existing ESOP grants. So there are many stages of ESOP, as we are all aware of, right from grant, vesting, exercise, and sale of also ESOP shares. But we are focusing only on the stages which are relevant for the options, and particularly we are talking about the existing grant. So we can broadly have two types of options here. So at any point in time, even today as well, as far as existing grants are concerned, we can have unvested options which are yet to vest, and vested options which are ready for exercise, which are already vested and which are ready for exercise, and it can be exercised at any moment within the exercise period. Now we can see that in case achievement of corporate or individual KRA goals has been the criteria for vesting, it is likely that vesting may not happen, leading to lapse of options due to falling businesses, because in the meantime, what can be observed is that another, say, Q4 result is coming, Q1 of next fiscal, I mean this fiscal would be coming, and companies may see huge downside in revenues, huge downside in PAT and other parameters, which may easily lead to lapse of options due to non-achievement of the performance conditions. So generally we have seen that in case a company goes for imposing performance condition as a vesting condition, generally corporate goals are linked, or individual goals linked with KRA are attached as the vesting conditions. So it is very likely that those options may lapse. So this may raise a concern. So this is an issue area. And in case company would like to revive options from a possible lapse, necessary assessments may be done for an appropriate response. So for an appropriate response, there are many things that employer needs to assess. For example, if the impact on business is minor, probably the appropriate response could be maintaining a status quo. And in case severe impact on business, performance conditions may be relaxed with a view to motivate employees to achieve the milestone, which is desirable and achievable. So again, if you see, as far as from the assessment point of view, long term or short term, say the assessment tells that the performance condition can be achieved for a very long term. So it is worthwhile to consider revision of the vesting condition, because for a long term, normally and reasonably speaking, the vesting conditions cannot be achieved. So companies have to be very practical, and in line with revision of their business model, they have to revise their performance conditions as well. For example, if the vesting condition was say 20% incremental revenue over last year revenue of say 1,000 crores. So say the last year revenue, annual revenue was 1,000 crores, and for this year's vesting, the condition was that in case employee helps in getting say 20% incremental revenue, that is the incremental revenue of 200 crores. Now, given the crisis, the crisis adjusted revenue expectation is say 600 crores. So there is a 40% reduction in revenue. Then vesting condition could be for incremental 120 crores. It should not be incremental 200 crores. So this kind of adjustment may be seen. And in case of uncertainty of company's own business, or in case companies wish to instill more objectivity into the performance conditions of employees, we have seen that companies are increasingly going to link the performance conditions to the peer group performance that is relative to the company's performance. So they can say that if the say the revenue is more than the industry benchmark, or say if the revenue is more than particularly say identified peer companies, then in that case vesting will happen. So these kind of mechanisms can be developed with a view to reflect a truistic performance condition, and that should be guided by the objectivity, not subjectivity. Now coming to another thing, so we talked about what shall be the way forward, particularly for the unvested options which are waiting for vesting, and vesting may eventually lapse because there is no achievement of business milestones due to this crisis. Now, if you see the concept of underwater options, now underwater options are such concepts which are applicable to both unvested options as well as vested options. So it is not a case that option is already vested and ready for exercise, and now employee as and when sees that options are underwater, that creates a concern. It is not a case, but it applies to all the options, whether vested or unvested. And the concept of underwater option is that that the options become underwater when the market price goes below the exercise price. So if you see today's situation, when say prices are in the range of 1 year low to even 10 years low, it is assumed that in most cases options would have been underwater unless granted at the face value. So for example, we can see the severity of underwater. So there are severities of underwater options as well. For example, company had granted an option at 100 rupees exercise price. Now the price has uh, gone down to say 90 rupees. So there is only 10 percentage price erosion. So it is relatively it has relatively lesser severity as compared to a price if it would have gone down to say rupees 40 or so. So one thing is that the severity point of view, generally the underwater options are assessed with a view to judge what kind of appropriate treatment or appropriate response should be given. And for an appropriate response, it needs assessment as to extent of an option has become underwater, as I said you. And other factors like percentage of options affected, unamortized accounting cost, remaining exercise period, etc. So now, as far as the remaining exercise period concept is concerned, you can see that if say options were granted just say in January 20, options were granted at 100 rupees. Now the price is say anything, say 80 rupees or 90 rupees, because options were granted afresh, and the options were granted with exercise period of say 5 years or so. So because you have ample time in hand, probably that will give comfort to the employer to maintain a status quo. So that gives the employer the appropriate uh, decision making. I mean, that helps in decision making as to what kind of appropriate response should be provided in that case. But owing to sector business, if it is thought that price can again have a comeback to say in the continuing with the recent example, that prices the exercise price was 100 rupees, and after movement from 100 rupees after the date of grant, the price has gone up to say 150 in the month of say January, and after that again we are now seeing, today we are seeing the price is 90. But owing to the expectation that the sector of the business would improve substantially, and the company believes that the price can again recover within a short period of time, probably that would also give the company to maintain a status quo. So there are various things, and another thing is that what is the unamortized accounting cost, because that is bearing in giving appropriate treatment for the underwater options. Let us see what are the responses generally thought of when we think of underwater options. One is repricing the existing grant. Repricing existing grant means, say, the exercise price was 100. Now the price has gone down to, say, rupees 70 or 80. Now company believes that price is not going to recover within a reasonable period of time. Let us bring the exercise price down to, say, 70 or 80. Now, as far as this repricing decision is concerned, from the assessment point of view, as we had mentioned in bullet point number 4, uh, sorry, it is bullet point number 3, that amortized accounting cost, one has to see that what was the accounting cost already booked. And if the company is going for repricing the existing grant, what additional cost company is going to book. So whether it is worthwhile to reprice the options, or company should see if there is any other alternative to give the same amount of benefit but without repricing. So responses, as we had stated, that these are three, say, mutually exclusive responses. If repricing is done, then the second option, that is cancellation regrant, is not done. If cancellation regrant is not done, then company can think of, say, maintaining status quo, like so. So as I said, I mean, the unexpired portion of the exercise period also plays a very vital role. Uh, but in any case, you can see the objective here is to assess what could be reasonably achieved within a desired horizon and accordingly frame a response. So these are all parameters or decision points one has to necessarily assess and reassess, and accordingly take one of the measures as we had written in the response. And it may be a case that one company would be partly repricing. I mean, repricing partly. I mean, part of the options from the total pool of outstanding options, and part of the options may be told to be surrendered so that company can think of regrant. This type of things can also be done, but the factual things must be assessed as to what kind of response would really justify the situation. Now, still coming to another point as far as existing ESOP grants are concerned, and this particularly relates to the vested options which are ready for exercise. But as we are discussing that there could be chances that there may be inadequate liquidity for exercise of in-money options. So these are obviously in-money options, but out of money or underwater options, nobody would think of exercise. So the assumption here that there is bit profit still lies in the vested options. Now employee is thinking whether to exercise or not, but the thought of the want of liquidity, or I mean the want of liquidity, whether real or perceived, is restraining that employee to exercise. And as we know that liquidity is required to pay for exercise price and tax on exercise. Uh, the issues here could be want of free liquidity, and the apprehension that price may fall after exercise, reducing the gain on sell of shares. So here an example can be given that say the exercise price is 100, and fortunately the company share price is, say, 110 or 120. So the margin is very less, because obviously due to crisis it may be a case that the price would have fallen down from a recent high of, say, 200 to 180. Still options are in money. Now there is the dilemma what to do with those options, because those are still in money, but employee is fearing that the moment I would be putting 100 rupees for getting a margin of just rupees 20, one, I need to arrange for 100 rupees, number one, and number two, there are high chances that given the very high volatile market, the moment after I exercise, there could be dip down below my exercise price, which will wipe out all my gains. So instead of having a capital gain at the time of sale, I may like to get a capital loss instead. So these are the fear factors, and those are reasonable. I mean, those are justified from employee point of view. Now, if the company is apprehending that, and in case we have seen, I mean, in many cases, companies used to assess that what is the psychology of employees and whether employees are in a position to encash the options given by companies or not. And this is one of the good practices we have seen that happens with good companies, that they used to see the statistics or practice generally observed with their employees, that what their employees are doing with the options. Now, if you think of giving an appropriate response to this situation, what kind of assessment should be done? So one of the assessment appropriate response can be decided on the assessment of the issues, and in case of want of liquidity, either the company funding or facilitation of cash flow exercise with finance from outside sources will do. And most of you would be aware of what is cashless exercise and how that is done. So probably the assessment will tell that what kind of apprehension is there in the minds of the employees, what is debarring them in exercising the options which are still in money. So once that is known, company can accordingly frame a response. Uh, or in case employee need to know the impact or possible recovery, then appropriate communication can be made so that they may feel comfortable using their own liquidity for exercise and sell in a staggered way. So this is, I mean, the ways, I mean, company has to do assessment of the situation. Accordingly, responses can be framed. Here, one of the cardinal point uh, what is that when we talk about changing the vesting conditions or performance conditions, or we think of repricing the options, or in any way giving a modification to the terms and conditions of the existing grants, we are all aware that none of the modifications should be detrimental to the impact to the interest of the employees. So from that point of view, every step taken by the company should be judged whether that would be allowed under law or not. But in any case, repricing is always beneficial. So as far as general repricing is concerned, bringing the exercise price down to a down level is concerned, obviously that is not detrimental, that is beneficial. That can be done without even giving a second thought from the law point of view. But repricing has its own consequences, which we will discuss in the last slide, which we will discuss a bit about the pros and cons. Now we can move to the next slide, that is on the new grants. As ESOPs are known as non-cash compensation, the proponent for using ESOPs as a new grant is mainly conservation of cash. And we are all aware of that. I mean, probably that is the reason behind the popularity of ESOPs so far. And ESOPs generally are thought to be a wonderful instrument at the time of crisis. So it is very likely that employer companies would review existing cash compensation structures. And when we talk about cash compensation, I mean, it is a general compensation, and cash LTIP in particular may also be reviewed. So for example, one employer may like to think this way, that 100 is the total CTC, out of which say 70 has been the fixed cash component and 30 is the variable cash component so far. Now company can think of 50% is a fixed cash component plus 20% is variable cash component and 30% is ESOP component. So this 30% equity component is infused into the system, into the compensation structure. So this way, companies may start thinking, and we have got a clue that yes, companies are thinking. Some companies are thinking like this, and it is probably the need of the hour. And now, for let us see what kind of assessments would be required with a view to give uh, appropriate response. So for an appropriate response, a company may like to assess the possible or proportion of equity and cash that can be contemplated in a revised compensation structure, or that who can be covered under the new grant of options, and whether business case can be demonstrated to them. So it is not a case that as and when company would think of giving ESOPs under a new grant, company would be covering almost all the headcounts in the company. So it cannot be, or it may not be possible to cover almost all persons in the company. That depends that what is the understanding level of the employee, to what extent an employee understands the business. So as you may also be aware of that every employee of the company is not aware of or fully aware of the business model. So, given that fact, so as far as how ESOPs work, how businesses work, and giving a perception about the business, a certain level can be focused, where the management of the company can focus on such levels where the management can give increased equities or increased proportion of equities to those levels. Now, a related point is there. Let us see that related point, so that we, after that, we can see what kind of common responses can be thought of for both the points. Retaining the top talent in the midst of downsizing. So, as we know, in any circumstance, growth drivers or top talents are generally retained. And given the vulnerability as to poaching or switching to any other employer, any company would endeavor to structure their high compensation with a proper balance of cash and equity. So it is very necessary, as it is normal to understand that in case of debacle, in case of crisis, high quality people would be required, because it is not a normal time, so that normal people can help run the business. So the critical talents would always be desired to stay with the business for the stated period of time, or at least the desired horizon. So it is very critical for companies to ensure that the key talents or growth drivers uh, uh, stay with the company in the period of crisis. So given this imperative, uh, it is uh, it is very necessary that the company should give a serious thought as to what should be the component of the compensation, and how the compensation would not lose scene, and that would continue to motivate the key growth drivers, key talents with the company, so that the company can easily surpass the crisis. And probably we have, I mean, we came to know that in crisis generally, I mean, these top talents are, I mean, even though there is an apprehension in the minds of top talents that whether the company would allow continuation of their employment. This is one thing, and another thing is that other companies who are relatively in a better position, they would like to poach the employees from other vulnerable companies. So these kind of things may also happen. So with a view to address those kind of challenges, it is also necessary. I mean, this is also proponent that why uh, the company should come up with a good uh, uh, compensation structure. So now, if you can see that from the assessment point of view, that the company can see that what kind of challenges, what kind of probabilities of challenges being perceived or that can be received by a company, and accordingly, if a company prepares a cash budget and a new grant which might be contemplating equity as a default by way of reward, may also contemplate settling in cash. This may seem attractive to the employees. So I'd like to repeat once again that in case a company prepares a cash budget, and obviously company can know that at what point in time the company would be getting enough cash so that some portion of which can be attributed towards the compensation. So for the time being, even though company can implement an equity plan, but that can also instill an element of cash settlement as and when that the company would arrive at that comfortable cash position. So from that point of view, if you see various responses that designing a plan with cash settlement choice at later stage, but for the time being, the plan should talk about equity. So given the example, the initial example which I had cited, that the compensation structure would be 50% cash, fixed cash, and 20% is variable cash, and the new component is 30% is equity. So 30% is equity may not, employees may not be happy seeing that 30% is equity, but employees should be given a feeler that as and when company would arrive to such situation, out of 30, appropriate portion can be converted into cash. So there is no reason to worry about. And another component, another thing that can be offered to employees as a very attractive proposition is that if companies PAT, profit after tax positions, profitability, in general, admits issuing of options at the face value or RSU, those are called RSU options, then that can also be thought of. And obviously employees would be happy because there is almost no downside risk to the employees, because in that case the options becoming underwater would be very less. And another thing, as I discussed, that a company can evaluate that given the various levels of the employees in the company, company can see that at what level of employees have used to have good understanding of the business and good understanding of the company valuation and equity valuation, or say how ESOPs work, and accordingly company should focus to increase the equity element in the structure, so that company can ensure skin in the game, because they would start feeling as co-owners, and company would really gain out of that. And another vital thing is that there must be a candid discussion with the top talent, and companies should assess that if there is any gap in understanding the business model, then that should be very frankly discussed with the top management, and the company should ensure that the person who has received the equity grant fully understands that what is going to happen, and that person should have a belief in the company. Now coming to the third point, as to attractiveness of ESOP. In doubt, employees may prefer cash. So when a company would take initiative to implement a new plan or issue a new grant, it may come to know that its employees do not have much belief on ESOPs due to recent debacles. So it is a natural thing. If a person has seen such a dip in the price, so that person may start developing some tendencies of disbelieving in the company valuation, and or due to say due to uncertainties in business valuation, or they may simply wish to get in cash instead of getting in equity, because they might have lost their belief in equity. An appropriate response could be made after we see after assessing the employees' perception of business, or by assessing if there is any gap in the communication with the employees, as to give them an understanding that owners have about the business, and inculcate the confidence like a co-owner. So the response is communication. So if you know, as owner or management, if management believes that they have a sound business model, their business value is will continue to grow. If at the same time the management perceives that their employees are not having that perception, so probably management, after assessing that there is a negative perception, management must take steps to assess the gap and should fill up that by appropriate communication. So that's why we have seen that in certain companies, uh, uh, that with appropriate communication, there is a new era of motivation, because now the employees are informed about the business model, and they used to have now a total new belief about how the company will grow. So that will create entirely a new story. But this is a very important aspect that the management should try to know that what is in the minds of the employees. So this is about the new grants. If we come to that takeaways, so in this context, I'd like to tell you that as a company, we had seen 2008 crisis very closely. And we believe that the current crisis caused by COVID-19, even though a different one, shall also pass on. And even industry captains are saying, even though they have varied opinion, one is saying that this crisis will pass on after a quarter, and some are saying after 2 quarters or 5 quarters. But so definitely it will pass on, and within a short term only, if we consider short term is around say 3 to 4 quarters. This is the general belief. But one has to withstand the turbulence what we can see in the forthcoming 2 3 quarters or so. Now, I mean, the crisis needs even strong leaders to overcome, as we discussed, that who generally redraw newer strategies, because the crisis needs strong leadership. It is not a case that the normal leadership can do if they have all the capability to tackle the crisis. They can do. Otherwise, the management would need some different kind of leadership. So this infers as evidence in past crises that key talents would be re-emphasized more strongly. So it is not a case that businesses would perish or businesses would start disbelieving in the key leadership, but the key leadership roles will be re-emphasized and will come with more vigor. So this is our thought, and everybody would like to agree with this. And now this crisis may give new imperative for the equity for the sake of conservation of cash, as we have seen, and probably cash is the buzzword today. And this may require companies to restructure their compensation with a balanced cash and equity approach. So it shall happen for sure, and everybody would like to conserve the cash. Now coming to the repricing, repricing may be beneficial, and it is always beneficial for employees, but this needs to be balanced from all stakeholders' perspectives, and it needs a thorough assessment. For example, the shareholders may not always like the idea of repricing when the price is perceived to be rock bottom. A calculated move is desired. And another thing, as far as repricing is concerned, one needs to see that whether the price of the company's shares has been rock bottom due to company's own fault, or is there any chance of bouncing back very quickly because the sector in which company is operating the business may recover very fast. And in case, even having that belief that the prices can recover very fast, is in spite of that, if the company would be going for repricing, probably the company would be making employees unjustly rich. So that win-win is not achieved there. So our objective, whatever we have got as an experience in this kind of crisis and at other times as well, is that there must be win-win at all times. And if a decision is taken as to repricing, it must be taken from all stakeholders' point of view. And of course, employees' interests should also be seen because they are also a vital element of the company. While restating the vesting conditions, the last point, companies may reassess the performance conditions, as we had discussed, that while restating the vesting conditions for an existing grant or outstanding options or performance criteria for a new grant. So in case company uses performance criteria, say the past performances for a new grant, because companies would not achieve that performance, that milestone, probably that may go to impact the new grants as well. So it is not a case that due to dipping down of business, the unvested options will stop. I mean, those unvested options will not vest. Again, in case companies used to have a practice of seeing the past performance and giving a new grant, that would also take a hit. So now companies may revalidate their predefined performance conditions with respect to that of peer companies in the light of the crisis. Whereas factoring, we believe that, whereas factoring in of more percentage of the peer performance relative to a company's performance brings more objectivity, because company itself is not seeing its own performance, because company can pass through several peculiarities, which may be, several things or several disabilities or abilities which may be peculiar to that company. But if the company is operating in a sector, it is worthwhile, it is prudent to see the sector performance as well, or selected peer companies' performance, so that some objectivity can be ensued. So with this, we can move to questions and answers. Even though, I mean, it is designed to be a webinar, and the subject matter, we cannot say that it is a small thing, but the analysis can be done to any extent as far as fine-tuned analysis is concerned. But time was less, so we have just
thank you,
endeavored to.
Yeah, thank you, Uma. The dialogue has been very helpful. In fact, I also personally learned a lot of, out of it. Thank you, participants. It has been the pleasure, with us talking to you, having here. We will have question answer. We'll pick up, 1-2 question in the last, now the next 10 minutes. Before that, we'll take a minute. I mean, I request, everyone who's participating to, provide their response to the polling questions. There are 5, questions we have asked. These, questions are appearing in your chat window. If you can, provide your response, that will be excellent. This is my request. We'll be using this, data for our research. Also, your responses will be, anonymous. So, the results will not be, available in terms of, who has responded what is not available in the public window. So I request, everyone to provide their response to the polling questions. We'll take a pause for a minute and come back, rejoin this interesting discussion with question and answers.